What's up, guys? Welcome back to Beyond Bounces and Boundaries. I'm your host, Santosh Kumar. In today's episode, we'll be talking about Virat Kohli. He scored his 50th century, uh, 50th ODI century. He broke Sachin Tendulkar's record and he set a new world record. And we'll be talking about that. And the center of the discussion will be about what makes Virat Kohli so special. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, Virat Kohli scored his 50th century, ODI century, and it was kind of an emotional moment for me because he's a player who I grew up watching, who I grew up modeling my game, and to see your idol set a world record, it's always special. There's always a connect which you cannot explain in words. And I was actually watching the game from a cafe in Mumbai, and when he scored his 50th century, there was I got emotional and there was drops of tears in my eyes. And there was this lady who was just passing by taking a coffee, and she asked if I was okay, beta. And I just told her, Auntie, Virat Kohli scored century and broke Sachin Tendulkar's record. And she just laughed, right? But yeah, that's the kind of connect that you have with someone who has had so much influence on you, and who is so special to you. And one of the things which really stood out to me during that century was actually after he scored a century, and while he was celebrating, the cameraman showed Anushka Sharma giving flying kisses to Virat Kohli. And that was another emotional moment for them as a couple because of what they've went through. And the first thing when I saw that, the first thing that struck me was, once upon a time, as media, they blamed Anushka Sharma for the collective poor performances of Team India or RCB, to that matter. Even Virat Kohli, the poor performances of Virat Kohli. And when you look back, when you look back at it, right, this was probably what, uh, 8 9 years ago, and 2013-14, that time. And when you look back at this, it's such an outrageous thing to do, to pin the blame of a performance of a team or a player on their partner. And looking at how emotional she was, uh, it just it just showed how much of a journey that they've been through. She has been through his lowest of the lows, and she was there at the stadium for the highest of his highs, breaking record and setting a new world record at the highest stage possible in the World Cup semi-finals against a very good team. Uh, Virushka is a couple that all the people watching do aspire that they find someone like Virushka. But that's not the topic that we are going to be talking about. It's about Virat Kohli, and a unique question popped up about Virat Kohli on Twitter, which came to my notice, and it got me thinking, which is why I wanted to dedicate a podcast episode for the man who's truly a legend, who's truly a phenomenal persona, right? Uh, so let's start with it. Virat Kohli scored his 49th century against South Africa at Eden Gardens, and as I was scrolling through Twitter, I saw this question pop up by someone, which said to describe Virat Kohli in a way which has not been described in a way before. Describe Virat Kohli in a way in which no one has described him before. And it's not an easy thing to do, to describe Virat Kohli, because I'll get into it. I went and looked at the comments, and most of them were sarcasm, trolls, and it was generalized adjectives. So I went and asked my friends on Instagram, what makes Virat Kohli special? And here are some of the answers which I got. They said he's a chase master, he's the goat, he's so elegant, uh, and all these adjectives and all these adjectives, which are absolutely true, right? Which are absolutely true. But the question was, what makes Virat Kohli so special? And as a fan, as a person who has admired him, who's modeled his game after Virat Kohli, as a person who's looked up to him at every stage of my career, I never thought about it. I never thought about Virat Kohli in such a way as to what makes him special. So as I started to think, uh, I couldn't get an answer. So I had to go out for a walk and clear my head to meditate on this topic and to see what makes Virat Kohli so special. What makes Virat Kohli a player who is feared by opponents and who has this godly persona amongst so many fans and so many people across the globe. And I say godly as a compliment because everybody wants to be like Virat Kohli. And this is something which you notice across sports, right? Do you remember? You must remember Gatorade's I Want to Be Like Mike commercial about Michael Jordan. Everybody wants to be like Michael Jordan. And cricket is no different. Everybody in India, look, in India, we have this love affair with our cricketers. We have this love affair with our cricketers. We just love ourselves some cricketers, right? Once the person becomes, once you have a personal connection, it's even if the cricketer doesn't know it, it's almost as if you're going beyond measures to defend that player. To It's almost as if like a family relation. He's so it's so personal. It's so personal, right? So I've never thought about it like that. And so I went for a walk and I had to meditate on this topic. And after after probably a half an hour, 45 minutes walk, I came to a conclusion that I understood. I actually understood what makes Virat Kohli so special. I actually understood what makes Virat Kohli so special. And the thing is that Virat Kohli is boring. Yes, I said it. Virat Kohli is boring. And boring is beautiful. Boring is beautiful. That is why everybody loves Virat Kohli. Look, when you talk about Test cricket, the first player that comes to your mind must be Pujara, right? Say probably Kane Williamson to that matter, Rahul Dravid, people who take time, slow and steady, who are proper Test cricketers. When you talk about T20, AB de Villiers, Chris Gale, these are the players that come to your mind. Even when you talk about ODI cricket, yes, Virat Kohli comes to your mind, but I would say more often than not, you think about Rohit Sharma, Joe Root to that matter, and of course Virat Kohli. When you look at all these players, the one thing you notice is that their batting style complements the format. And when you look at Virat Kohli, he's never been labeled as the person who is this player for this format. No, his records, he's on the top of the pyramid for all the formats that we mentioned. But how is it? How is that possible? And the reason is that Virat Kohli is consistent. Virat Kohli is consistent, and consistency is boring. You know, years and years ago, I still remember this. Harsha Bogle still has one of the coldest lines, probably the hardest lines on television while commentating. He said during the Australia series, Virat Kohli was batting, and Harsha Bogle said, when you look at Kohli's batting, I'm paraphrasing. When you look at Kohli's batting, it almost looks as if he's lost in his own perfection, right? And when you break it down, you will see consistency. And when you break that down, you look at all the boring things. You look at all the boring things that Virat Kohli does in an era of cricket where entertainment has become the primary focus, where more and more of eye-catchy shots, wickets, and all of this is being prioritized. Virat Kohli makes you fall in love with old-fashioned cricket. And it is only because it's Virat Kohli you fall in love with the game in a way which is never done by any other player. This is why Virat Kohli is so special, because he does the boring things, he does the most mundane things, and you love it. As a consumer of the game, as a fan watching the game, you love it. While I was returning from the walk, I was thinking about I was thinking about this topic, right? I was meditating on the topic and I was trying to draw parallels from different industries, right? If Virat Kohli is the one who is doing the boring things and is so successful in cricket, there must be someone similar in some other industry as well. And the first industry I could think of was music. Music. And if there is a comparison for Virat Kohli, it is Drake. Virat Kohli is the Drake of cricket. Why do I say Drake? See, Drake, when you look at Drake's music, he's not as creative as Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole or even Kanye West that matter. He takes minimum risks. He takes minimum risks. And yet, he plays in his own box. And yet, you know that there is always a banger music album coming out. And yet, you know that there's always a banger song coming out. When you look at Drake's biggest contribution to the music industry, to the hip hop industry, it's singing as a rapper. He sings and raps, right? He plays around with R&Bs. And for years and years, even till this date, that's been a knock on Drake, that he's not your typical rapper. And yet he's probably the most successful artist, hip hop artist. He's one of the most successful artists in this generation because he doesn't take risks. He doesn't take a lot of risks. You know what you will expect. You know what you're expecting from Drake. And every single time he delivers, time and again, time after time after time, album after album. I was just listening to Scary Hours 3, For All the Dogs album came out. And the same criticism followed again and again and again. It was repetitive. He's singing. It's not the old Drake and all of this. And today, I was just listening to Scary Hours 3, the album. And man, he just he showed why he's the best in the business. He showed why he's the best in the business. It's really good, the Scary Hours 3 album. So when I look at Virat Kohli and I see a lot of resemblance with Drake. So when he got to his 50th century, he was celebrating. I was just thinking, see, batting is an art. There is a method to this madness. There is a method to this madness. And you can't get to 50 centuries, let alone any century. You cannot get to 50 centuries without doing the boring things, without doing the simple stuff right. And it's in those simple stuff right. That is the boring things. That is the boring things. Kobe Bryant said it the best. If you want to be successful, you need to do the simple stuff right. And there is a lot of deeper meaning in that. Because when you look at success, when you even let's talk about batting itself. Let's talk about batting itself. There is always going to come a phase. It's the most simple aspect of batting. No matter how big of a batsman you are, there is going to come a phase where the runs are not going to flow, where you will be thrown off momentum, right? And it is your duty to stick around through that phase, to get through that uncomfortable phase, so that you pass it out. And once you're done, runs start flowing. It's like a circle. It's a circle in batting. You start well. You start well. You start on zero. You play well. The momentum breaks. You have this phase. Then again you start well. The momentum breaks. It's a circle, right? And there is a method to madness. And Virat Kohli, God knows how many innings he's played. And to do that every single time, to be the most successful ODI batsman scoring 50 centuries, it's a phenomenal achievement. And you don't get there without doing the boring stuff. That is why Virat Kohli is boring, and he makes you fall in love with boring things. Boring is beautiful. Pause for a minute and take a look around you. Look at the things that grab your attention. Look at the things that catch your eyes. And at the end of all of this, you'll find flashy, catchy material things. But when you look at Virat Kohli's batting, he's everything but flashy. Yet, his batting is a global delicacy. His cover drives grab the attention of the dead. And this is another thing which I was thinking about while I was coming back from the walk, is that another way, another way in which Virat Kohli has made the boring things beautiful is with the fitness culture in India. Fitness culture, I don't think there was a fitness culture among in the Indian team until Virat Kohli started this revolution. Until Virat Kohli started this revolution, probably the fittest player in Indian team was MS Dhoni, and till the date he retired, he was the fittest player. And when you look at his contribution to the team, how he changed the fitness culture in India, not just in the Indian team, but across the nation with kids. Yo-yo test has become mandatory. Yo-yo test is one of the primary things that you need to do, that you need to pass to even make yourself eligible for the Indian team selection. And yet people love fitness. People have fallen in love with fitness in the past 5 to 10 years. 5 years, 5 years, not 5 to 10 years, 5 years. It started in 2014 after the England tour, after a disastrous England tour. And then he started working on his fitness. And from 2016, Virat Kohli was the one who set the world on fire. And when he revealed his mantra for success, everybody wanted to be like him. Everybody wanted to be like him. I still remember I still remember this interview with Jatin Sapro Virat Kohli did on Star Sports. He said that he would eat chana during weight loss, right? He would eat chana and he would feel so hungry in the night that he would almost feel like eating his blanket. And those are some of the most boring things, sufferable things that nobody wants to do earlier. But after listening that, everybody wanted to do that. Everybody wanted to be like Virat Kohli. And in 2016, 2015, 2016, that's when the real change happened across the Indian team, across across the nation. And that is one of the few ways in which he's changed India, the Indian team. Another factor which I was thinking about was running between the wickets. I still remember this game, the quarterfinals against Australia in the T20 World Cup in Mohali. There was some 60, 70 odd runs required in the last 5 overs. MS Dhoni and Virat Kohli. I still remember they put the ball in David Warner's hand and they went for doubles. Virat David Warner is he's a bull on the field, right? You don't mess with David Warner on the field. And yet they put the ball in his hand and they ran for 2 runs. Those kind of things. Why should batsmen even run 2 runs? I'll tell you a simple example. If you remember the game against uh, Bangladesh, India won by 1 run. The famous Dhoni run out. Do you know what happened in first innings that day? Do you know what happened? If you really recall, on the last ball of the innings, India's batting, Dhoni pushed for a second. And that one extra run was the deciding factor in India's victory. That one run, that last push. And Virat Kohli is someone who brought in that culture. In my previous video, I said that the greatest compliment that you can give a cricketer or any athlete to that matter is you change the game. You change the game. And when you look at Virat Kohli and what he's done for this game, you look at fans across the globe falling in love with the game of cricket because of Virat Kohli. It's because he does these boring, mundane things, which is so beautiful to the eyes that people do not even notice that it's boring. That's his influence on the game in an era, where the trend is more towards leaning towards shorter formats of the game, right? T20, T10, the 100, and what not. Virat Kohli's batting is sublime. It's standard. You know what you're expecting from Virat Kohli. And every single time he surprises you by doing the most boring things and yet being so successful. He's never changed his approach. You know what Virat Kohli's blueprint is. And that's how he's changed this game. When you look at Virat Kohli in a world where there is, like we talked about earlier, in a world of completely flashy things that grab attention, in a world of entertainment, Virat Kohli has shown that you can still be the biggest light. You can still shed the biggest light by doing the boring stuff right. Because boring is beautiful. And Virat Kohli is the testament to that. He has truly changed this game. That's all. I don't know how else to describe Virat Kohli. I came back from that walk thinking that this is it. This is it. Why is no one talking about it? Virat Kohli, Virat Kohli is boring, and boring is so beautiful. It's one of the most purest compliments that you can give with how he has changed this game forever. If there is one thing that you want to take away, it's this: do the simple stuff right, do the boring stuff right for a long enough period, and you will be successful because boring is beautiful. That's all. That's all. I'll sign out with this. Thank you so much for listening, guys. If you're on Spotify, please leave a review. It'll help our podcast grow. If you're on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the like button. We have a lot of stuff planned for this podcast, for this channel. There'll be a lot more interesting guests coming up after this World Cup, so that you do not want to miss these conversations and learn more about this game. Thank you so much, guys.